So yeah, I got it on the desk, and as a backup, there's collection of shit in me. I've got my recorder as well, so you'll have it somewhere. Yeah. Are you going back on, or are they just starting?
Your break, guys. Thanks for being so punctual. Welcome back, Maff Brown, guys.
Welcome back. Well done. It's Maff, Reese. Fucking 12 years we've been doing this gig. Fucking hell. Anyway, he probably has been drinking. You're right, yeah. It's that Sunday afternoon vibe, isn't it? Right then, so we're just going to get on with it. So we're going to do the podcast, and like I say, could you just make sure your phones are on silent now, just so they don't go off during it. Because even if they go off, it still goes beep, 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 on our microphones. So if you could just do that for us now, that'd be lovely. And if you don't know how to do it, just pass it to someone younger than you. That's how it works. Well done. Look at you, all very well behaved, aren't you? What a lovely bunch. We've got Sean Walsh here tomorrow night, by the way. Closing tomorrow night, if you want to come to that. You can, but you probably don't. If I'm being honest, you seem a bit Sunday afternoon-y, really. Good idea, aren't they, Sunday afternoons? And also, don't talk whilst we're doing this, because again, we can the microphones can be picked up. And then it's going out on a podcast. Yay! Fucking yay! All right, let's get on with it. Before we start, by the way, I'm going to be reading some questions from a clipboard, and you are about to see the best clipboard you've ever seen. Check that out. Had to order that from America, that's true, by the way. Well done for laughing at it is. In Southend, someone asked me if I had a picture of Michael McIntyre. So. True story. And in Warrington, someone asked me if I had a picture of Cy. Don't know why. Just racist people right here. All right, so so what I'll do is I'll introduce Al, and then when he comes on, we're just clapping and cheering like that sort of thing. Shut that fuck up. That's what. Shh. Keep that quiet. And then we'll just crack on with it. We're just going to talk about some stuff about comedy and about other stuff. We'll try and make it amusing and funny, but if it's not meant to be that necessarily funny. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Should we just get on with it? I'm just talking bullshit now, aren't I? Just talking bullshit. All right. So are you recording, Reese?
Yeah.
Ready to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maff Brown podcast. Please welcome my guest for today, Al Murray! Hello, Al.
Hi, Maff.
Thanks for coming, mate.
See, I got it right. Yeah.
Well, we've known each other for a while. Oh, shit.
I've broken the chair.
That's how we start every podcast, with a false chair.
Fantastic.
Sorry, mate.
That's all right, I'll sit upright.
Yeah, is it broken? Do we need
I have broken it.
All right, let's get.
I am a fat bastard, but there we go. See if we can break this one.
Yes. 5 quid for my key, mate.
Okay, there we go.
Expensive bit. All right, we in?
Yeah.
Nice and gently.
Yeah. I've eased myself in gently, as it were.
All right, I'd like to start again just for the edit, but I think fuck that, we'll keep that in.
I'm going to leave that in.
So, Al, thanks very much for coming to do this. It's
Pleasure.
a pleasure. I've known you for a while. We've done this very room, in fact, about 8 years ago, I think it was. We had, because there's a comedy club here every Monday night, just to let you know. And so Al came down, and we had a very special night that night. So we had the middle section was Omid Jalili, Al Murray, and Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Fucking Robin Williams.
Yeah, it was mental.
Yeah, and it was incredible. And basically when I introduced you nearly really scared me, by the way, because you probably won't remember this, but you did about 25 minutes before Robin.
Yeah.
And you knew that Robin was coming.
Yeah.
And you said at the end of your set, you're going to remember this night for the rest of your life. And I came straight to her, no, fucking no. And you went, because you've seen me.
Yeah, I did do that, yeah. I was thinking, it's always good to do a dummy now and again, isn't it?
Oh, mate.
No, that was an extraordinary night as well, because I remember you got in touch and said, will you do it? And you think, yeah, I'll open for Robin Williams, no problem. So I can't remember who was on first, but then we had Omid and then me.
Yeah.
And then he sort of arrived, and he was over there with a bunch of people, wasn't he? There were a bunch of people with him and all that sort of thing, and real palpable like nervous energy coming off them, because he was in town to do some shows on
Prince Charles.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually went to one of the shows he did later that week. But he came on and there was a lad at the back who just kept going, Jumanji!
That's right.
Jumanji! and he's going, and eventually he goes, yeah, fucking Jumanji. Yeah, I was in Jumanji. And you kind of think, I mean, there were some really young people in who probably didn't know he'd ever been a comic, who didn't know about Mork and Mindy where he did that kind of freewheeling thing and all that. So it's a bit shit, someone just shouting Jumanji, Robin Williams over again. But there you go. And he was brilliant. And then when I saw him later in the week, he was amazing how alive he was on stage. And you could see he was one of those, because there are lots of comics who, when they're on stage, that's when they're having the most fun, full stop, in their lives. And he was doing exactly that. Yeah, and it's the amount of people that claim to say been the one that was shouting out Jumanji. It's a bit like when he went to school with the Craze. Oh, really?
That was me. It fucking wasn't, mate. It wasn't, I know it was. But it was an incredible night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mad.
It was, the atmosphere was incredible. And when I introduced him as well, nobody believed me at all.
Yeah, that's right.
I said, because there used to be a wall there. I mean, that's not going to make any sense to the podcast, but there used to be a wall there, and that he was behind that wall. And I introduced him and said, look, we've had a fantastic night. We've got one more act. He's American, he hasn't done stand-up for a while, he's just trying some stuff out. Please welcome Robin Williams. And the crowd sort of went, yeah, fucking Robin. And all of a sudden they came through and went, fucking And the place just erupted. He couldn't do anything for about 2 minutes.
No, he couldn't really do anything.
People just going absolutely crazy for him. He got a standing ovation before he did anything.
Yeah.
That's not fucking fair.
No. Especially as I had absolutely smashed it.
You
not got a standing ovation.
No, you had absolutely smashed it. Omid had done well, and then one of the comedians on the circuit had to follow him called Jeff Norcott.
That's right.
And he said to me during the day, he said, he's a massive Wimbledon fan, AFC Wimbledon fan, who played down the road.
Yeah.
And he said they were playing that night, so I'm going to watch Wimbledon and then I'll come to the gig. I said to him, I would suggest you don't do that. Because I was told I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone about it at all. So I suggest you don't do that, I suggest you come to the gig. He said, no, I know Al Murray's on, I've seen it before.
How brilliant.
And as he was walking in, Robin Williams was walking out. And he went, oh shit. But I couldn't tell him, I wasn't allowed to tell him. I was supposed to be in New York as well. Because I was away, I was in New York, and so me and my girlfriend were sitting, so we found out about this on the Tuesday before the Monday, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in the airport lounge, going to New York, both really depressed, because they were going to miss this,
Yeah.
And I just wasn't thinking clearly. I even bought extra flights to come home instead of just changing my flights. That's how it affected me. I was so fucking excited. But it was an incredible night. And thanks for being part of it as well.
Well, no, thanks for having me, because it is one of those things where and then when he died, you know, it was 4 years ago, wasn't it? In Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, this is tragic, but I did get to work with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever you see a big name die like that, and you kind of you see people on social media who are going, well, I remember the time I met him and he was this, that, and the other, very down to earth and charming and all that sort of thing. And I remember thinking, when he died, I thought I could do that, or I could just say to myself, I was really fortunate to have actually crossed paths with the guy, and he was brilliant. He was brilliant. That was the thing.
He was exceptional that night as well. And it was all stuff. It was brand new stuff about Obama, I think, because Obama just came in, and I tried to use it as an excuse to get out my Edinburgh show. I didn't want to do it. I was having a shit time at Edinburgh at that time, so I said, I think we should all boycott our Edinburgh shows in memory of Robin Williams. And you even sent me a text going, don't be fucking stupid, mate. So thanks for that. Thanks for
you're welcome.
Right, let's talk about you then, because I'm interested from a comedian's point of view, because you've been going for 25 years or so.
Something like that, yeah.
And I'm interested to know, because I've been going for 12, and I really interested to know about the differences between then and now.
Right. Oh God. Well, when I started doing stand-up, I mean the alternative scene, as you would probably call it, which you probably think of as the young ones and Ben Elton, and then the people who were coming throughout that, like, I mean, a lot of people sort of like, your Jeremy Hardys and people like that, who were the sort of second wave at the end of the 80s, and Jerry Sadowitz as well, was sort of in reaction to a lot of that. That was the scene.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on TV very much, and when it was on TV, it was on usually on Channel 4 late, if stand-up was sort of exposed to the public outside the club circuit at all. And the club circuit, it was a big club circuit in town, in London, all over there. There'd be 40, 50 clubs. It was a lot of work. You didn't have people coming, you didn't have the thing you have now where people get discovered quite quickly and then are on TV quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't the churn, there wasn't the turnover. So it is really, really different. It's not a better or worse different. It was just completely different. And when I really got stuck into doing the circuit, you could do 400 or 500 gigs a year.
Yeah, wow.
If you really pushed and were prepared to sacrifice your marriage.
How many on now?
Fuck off.
But that happens. That's a comedian's life. Because
It is, yeah.
It's
Quite definitely.
It's such an addictive drug, getting laughs, and you do sacrifice everything.
Yeah, and I did sort of 5 years of doing 400, 450 gigs a year, where you do I'd take every single booking I could get, and you do 3 or 4 on a Friday and a Saturday without fail, probably try and double on a Thursday, and just do that and grind away, because I figured if I did it a lot, I'd get better at it, and that was sort of my rationale, and that worked for me. I mean, it doesn't work for everyone, but it worked for me. But by being completely obsessed with trying to get better at it.
Yeah, and your what we call banter skills, or when you're MCing and you talk to the audience, or riffing, or whatever you want to call it, is probably the best I've ever seen.
Thanks,
man. You know, that's generally true. I'm not saying it's a lot, and it's incredible. And we went to Afghanistan together, which was a fucking great holiday, wasn't it? It was brilliant.
That was quite extraordinary. We went. It was 4 years ago, wasn't it? 2014, Easter 2014, and it had been postponed because they'd had a thing where the plane had gone wrong, and everyone had been thrown upside down in the aeroplane on the way to Afghanistan. So they'd cancelled it for a bit while they found out what was wrong with the plane.
Yeah. But just go back to your band skills. We're talking about Afghanistan, but go back to your band skills. I don't know if this is true, because I generally don't believe anything she says, but Hills Jago told me that you would look, before the internet came out, basically, you had the yellow pages and you go through every job on it and write 5 jokes for each job, so in case someone who you spoke to was an accountant or a...
Yeah, I never went through the yellow pages, but I figured that it's sort of a bit like being able to play a musical instrument, right? So if you can play the scales, you can then play any tune or play to any setting that you come up with. So when I first started doing crowd work, what I used to do is get someone out and do a thing with them. And then I thought I need to break this down to the point where none of it's planned. It's prepared for, but it's not planned. So I wrote down, and it was just a question of doing the mental exercise. So I wrote down 20 likely jobs. I wrote down 3 responses, but I never learned them. I just did the exercise. And every now and again, when I come to write a new show, I might do a refresh, and I'll look at some of the things that I know I've said several times, and cross them off. Never do those again.
Oh wow!
And just to keep it moving, to keep it fresh, because I mean, I find when I do that kind of crowd work, you will always get jobs that come up again and again and again. So you do end up developing standard answers.
Yeah.
But what you never get repeat of is the combinations. So you never always get the undertaker sat next to the bloke who clears asbestos, which in Hornchurch once, I remember just this fucking amazing night where I had the bloke who cleared asbestos, somebody who works in a cancer hospital, and then the undertaker. And you kind of like saying to each of them, have you got a card? and then you go, say to the undertaker, there's no point trying to cremate him. He'll never fucking burn. That won't happen again, right? Those scenarios don't happen again. But what also, when the other thing you do, if you're improvising a lot, the things that work, you make sure you say them again spontaneously sometimes. You file them away and you think, no, I can't wait. If that comes up again, I'll have that straight out. And I know there's one or two really sort of absolutely killer lines I've got, responses that I've probably used 5 times in 25 years, and I can and it comes up and you think, right, at you come, 1998. It's like having a really big sort of quiver of arrows on your back. And you go, all right, I'll have that one, twang like that. But then it's each different target, and then how you set them up, and then how you reintegrate them, and all that shit. I mean, funnily enough, Afghanistan, when you got an audience of services people, it's more difficult because they've all got the same
job.
They've all got the same fucking job.
What do you do for a living, mate? Soldier.
Exactly. You know, there are the officers here, and they all go, no, well, you're all really brave, aren't you?
But that was an incredible time when we went to Afghanistan. We did like 5 days, and it takes about 17 days to get there. It's fucking long trip, that. But it was such what was great about it is they took us round everywhere, because you're really into your military stuff. So everywhere we went, the good thing about it, obviously, the only good thing about travelling with a famous comedian is that nobody wanted to talk to me. So they'd introduce us to every regiment, and you know who they were, what they did. You know, and it was interesting, and you found it fascinating, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And they looked after us. We did a few things. You know, well, I'm not saying war is good, but firing cannons is fucking fun, isn't it?
Firing that fucking howitzer on a gun line.
We had a couple of guns we had to go at as well, and your tour manager
cut himself.
So basically, the rifles that you sort of, it clearly kicks back, doesn't it? But he just didn't work that out, and he just went straight into his eye.
So they've got a sight, and you're meant to squint through the sight at a distance, right? And he put his eye right up there, and then he pushed the trigger. And he had this great fucking welt cut above his eyebrow, and the guy who's looking after us, this captain with us, had to do that thing of not finding it funny. It's really, really serious thing. And they took us to the hospital, didn't they? And there was nothing going on in the hospital, because we were there just before what they call drawdown, where they leave, right? And all the sergeant majors were going, well, I might be the last one off the fucking plane, little big grenades and all that. And that's exactly what didn't happen. They just left. Right? There was no fight. But so they were winding the fighting down. So the hospital was empty, apart from there was one guy in there with D&V, diarrhea and vomiting, which apparently is a big. When people get to Afghanistan, very often they have like a 4-day spell of really aggressive D&V. And there was a guy in there, basically he's behind plastic, his grey face. He was the only person I didn't shake hands with. It's normally like, hey, nice to meet you, what you do, thanks very much. Because my attitude to the military always is, thank God they're going to do that, because otherwise I might fucking have to. Right? And I'm a born coward with flat feet, and anyway, but they took him to the hospital, and they wanted to put him in because one of the things they had at Camp Bastion, for the injured guys, they had a thing called a golden hour. So within an hour of you being injured, the idea was they'd have you in an MRI scanner, and they'd give you a full body scan so they could see what was wrong with you and then fix you. And they wanted to put Adam in the MRI scan for this cut above his eye. They were desperate to, because there was fuck all going on. And they were Navy people in that hospital. So they think, what are you doing here? It's a desert. The fuck are you doing here? And they're like, well, we're going to practice him.
Has he still got a scarf with him?
I think he has, yeah. And we also saw the dogs. That was really great. The dog section was really
incredible.
The dogs were amazing.
They had a dog that they'd called Sit. Do you remember that?
That's right.
So they couldn't tell him to sit, because it was his name. So every time everyone said sit, he'd just run towards him. This is the pride of our military. I'm talking about it's fucking worrying sometimes. And they did one thing as well. Everyone was telling us, when we were walking around, everyone was saying to us, oh, you get a tour of the water factory. Remember that? You've got to go and see the water factory, because they make the farm your water. What do you do?
Well, the camp sat on top of an aquifer.
So he said, you've got to go and see how this bottled water gets made, because you drink about 4 or 5 litres a day. And so eventually we went, it sounds fascinating. And everyone told us, you've got to go see this. It was probably one of the dullest fucking hours of our life. And this bloke...
That engineer,
oh my God.
Graham.
Can you remember his name?
So he was like a well of boredom.
Oh my God.
It wasn't a water well in this place, it was a well of boredom. He was sucking the boredom out of the fucking earth rock, putting it into bottles. But he designed it all himself, hadn't he? He was very proud of it.
Yeah, and he showed us how the bottles were made. He showed us how water was drawn, and it was honestly. But the thing as well, because it's really clinically done.
Yeah.
So we all had to wear hair nets and
Super
beard
sterile,
nets. And,
yeah.
fucking hell. But it was the biggest waste of time I've ever spent in my life.
But it was that was a really interesting trip for another aspect, because in the camp there was a Starbucks, wasn't there?
There was a Costa,
There was a Costa, right? There was a Pizza Hut, and all that sort of stuff. And everyone, when they were sat in Costa, was on Facebook, back to home, from the middle of this, because Camp Bastion was literally in the middle of nowhere, 15 miles from anywhere in all directions. So basically, if the Afghans attacked it, they'd see them coming.
Yeah.
And the idea of people being on Facebook, like phoning, basically FaceTiming home.
Yeah.
It was sort of mind-boggling. It was a surreal experience.
It was mental, and you can't drink there. There's no alcohol there at all, which fucked your up a bit.
Cheers.
Did you have to bring your own fake alcohol?
I think we brought our own no alcohol beer with us.
Yeah. Oh man, that's weird. It was good for that though, because we're in a room literally the size of this stage, and there was six.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
6 of us, 6 grown men in a room this big, sleeping for 5 nights. Fucking weird.
The smell of balls.
Yeah.
You know what one pair of balls smells? Now multiply that by 6.
Now describe that smell.
Especially the shower didn't really work and like something. So it did get quite testicular in there.
And farts, because you all eat the same
Madam,
food.
you know the smell of one man fart. Multiply that by 6, sprinkle in the balls.
But you all eat the same food, because that's all. There's no unless you go and buy a pizza Hut or something, you all have to eat whatever it is. It's fucking dreadful food as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well done to them. Fucking massive well done to them, as far as I say.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Edinburgh Festival then? Because you won the Perrier.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
When it mattered.
Well, you say that. It really fucking mattered to me at the time.
Yeah, no, it matters.
Yeah,
If I won it, it matters to me now.
Yeah, 99 that was.
Yeah. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Perrier Award is basically like winning a World Cup for comedians, right?
Yeah.
But you were nominated for 3 years in a row.
4 years in a row.
4 years in a row.
But it was the 5th nomination because I've been nominated in a show with Harry Hill as well.
Ah, of course, because that's how the pub landlord came about, right?
Yeah, it was with Harry in a fringe show in a bar in Edinburgh where we had an act. Was him, me, and a guy called Matt Bradstock, who's a doctor who passed away the year before last, and who played the keyboards. And it was we'd come up with this band kind of as a laugh the year before.
All right.
In our flat in Edinburgh, so we jammed together. We took it to the Fringe Club and did a gig, and everyone really loved it. And we this was the thing we've been pissing around with in our flat.
Yeah.
We put it on stage once, and everyone loved it. It was a bit. We thought, we're gonna have to bring this back next year, whatever this is. So we worked it into a show, and I'd come up with a thing to compare the gaps, because it was a bit of stand-up, Harry doing a bit of stand-up, a film we'd made, the band at the end, and some other really weird shit him and Matt used to do. And I'd come up with this thing and it didn't work. And then when we got to Edinburgh, we're literally in the like in the green room over there, and it's in a bar, the cabaret bar at the Pleasance. And I said, well, why don't we say that the compere hasn't shown up and the barman's offered to fill in?
Oh, lovely.
And Harry said, yeah, all right, whatever. Because he obviously got another one of his brilliant ideas. and I just scribbled some things down then and there, and went on and did the thing, literally the first thing came to my head to go with it. And it worked. And it got laughs, and brought Harry on, and I went off, and then while he was on for 40 minutes, writing whatever the next thing would be, went on, and that worked, and you know, I mean, it was breadcrumbs at that point, and the whole idea was that you know, originally was that the pub landlord really didn't want to be up there, and he was really nervous, which is gone.
Yeah.
Slightly. That went pretty quickly, if I'm honest with you. But the next day, I cut all my hair off. I thought, I've got to cut the hair off. The hair's got to go. It's got to be short hair. And then bought a shirt to go with my suit. I used to wear a roll neck, but that became impossible to wear in a club because it's just too fucking hot.
Especially
with a wool jacket as well. It was like a stupid thing to do, but on any count. And then at the end of that Edinburgh run, we had a really cracking show, and then we went on tour and we did sort of 70 dates. At the end of the tour, because we had to put an interval in the middle, and I was essentially comparing. I had an act by then, I had an hour's material within a year that all fit the character and born out of the moment rather than me sitting down and working it out. And I think that's why it's sort of why it's carried on working, because I never did sit down and go, right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and this is the idea behind it and all that. It was purely a reaction to a situation, which is what the landlord is. He's a pure reaction.
And so he's changed over the years then, hasn't he?
Yeah, enormously, yeah.
How's he changed it?
Well, I used to have a lot more stuff about how his wife had left him and he hadn't seen his kid in ages and all this sort of stuff. And eventually, because I thought actually a bloke like that would forget. Because one of the reasons his wife left him is because he's a careless prick. So it sort of faded, and I made him less self-pitying, because I sort of people like that aren't particularly self-pitying. They don't particularly stop to think.
No.
So that kind of went out, and I also, a big change that kind of happened 10 years ago when I did a load of mainstream telly with him, was I made him aware of that he was famous, that he was known, and so his gigs are him going, don't worry, I'm here to offer the solutions that the country desperately needs. You've come to the right place. I'm your man.
Yeah.
And I put that in because that's what's happened in politics in the last 10 years as well. And I think that's really interesting to play with that. All these people pretending to be men of the people at the moment in politics, on every side, on every part of the political spectrum, it's really interesting because they're all obviously not. And anyone who claims to be instantly isn't. It's like the moment someone says, I'm the voice of the silent majority, well, you say you just fucking spoke. So you're not, how can you be? You can only ever speak for yourself and all that. And I put that in. And when we did, 10 years ago, we did like a big, 2009, we did a big arena tour.
Yeah. And
doing that character in that, using him thinking, I'm famous, added an extra thing to it. I think there's been, for me, the most interesting aspect of the act in the last 10 years. The interesting extension, and not one I thought I'd have come up with without actually big audiences to fool about with.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So when, because when I was doing research for it,
yeah.
What's interesting is that nearly everybody that's done an article with you describe him as a xenophobic pub landlord.
Yeah.
And is that how you see him as well?
No, I think the xenophobia is just one aspect of him being a mad twat.
Yes.
He also thinks, scientists aren't worth listening to.
Right.
He also thinks on his day he could out-sing Meatloaf. The xenophobia was, if anything, it was always just there to say, look, this guy's a loony.
Yeah.
Just as a sort of tell. It was never the point of it.
Yeah.
It was just, when you hear twats, they're hallucinating about what the French are like.
Right.
And then telling you that they're the best racing driver in the world, they just never had the opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? It's that, and all that sort of making excuses. Xenophobia is based on making excuses for your own inadequacies. Well, they're cheats, or they're liars, or they don't work as hard as us, and all that shit is people making excuses for themselves, which is idiotic, and that goes into his views about physics and fucking everything, food, all of it. It's not, and the xenophobia was only ever in there as your look, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah. What I found really interesting when you
got to the point,
Yeah, when you were getting ready for your last tour. You accidentally had it as LGBT.
Yeah.
But then you had the pub landlord had to then talk about something to do with that. And you had an amazing bit about transgender people, which was it was just everyone was waiting to see what the pub landlord would say about this, because we all know one of those, and we all know what they're going to fucking say.
Yeah.
But you skillfully.
I managed to time in complete fucking knots. come out the other end smelling of roses.
It's incredibly done.
Yeah, because the thing is, one of the interesting things is even talking about that is obviously a minefield now.
Yeah.
It's become an issue, particularly look at social media, how people, you're almost not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's almost not worth talking about because you don't want the grief that will come with it from every direction, not just from the people to whom it means something, but there's a whole lot of people who have taken up a position where they go, look at these people being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it means something to them and all that. So I basically had him say the material basically fell down to him relying on old-fashioned sexist stereotypes
Yes.
to explain transgender issues. And it was about how men would never show the commitment required to go through with it. Men are bad at commitment. Men are bad at commitment, aren't they, ladies? It was all that. So it's proof someone's a woman if they're prepared to go through with it. And you kind of think, from his idiotic logical perspective, that makes a great deal of sense. And very often that's the thing I'm trying to do is get him to make sense about things that really, or sometimes you take like a really hackneyed, apparently reasonable starting point. So I used to have this routine about kids these days, they don't know the meaning of hard work, right? They don't know the meaning of graft, they expect a free lunch, they don't know about the hard yards, all that thing you hear all the time, right? And I look at my 18-year-old daughter. She worked much harder at school than I ever fucking did. Right. She really has an extraordinary work ethic, right? And that's not because I've told her to, she just has. And that's how she sees how she's going to get through the world is by doing that, right? She doesn't expect a free lunch. So that's the cliche. And then I say, of course, it's all because of reality TV. So the routine was the pub landlord suggests, therefore, that we need to build 50 pyramids around the M25, built by anyone between the ages of 12 and 18 on a slave labour scheme, right? And then at the end of it, we get 50 reality TV stars, have a vote, kill them. Wrap them in bog roll, put one in each of the pyramids, and that way we'll have taught kids the meaning of hard work and slain their false gods. When you think of it like that, it makes perfect sense. And that for me is the fun of the actors doing that. Doing that sort of taking that kind of thing and going hallucinatory about it, or turning up the common sense idea to 110%, and then you end up somewhere stupid pretty quickly.
Yeah, but so when you're talking about these issues as well, and you also you tweet a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
And you troll a lot as well. So you get trolled.
Yeah, I get trolled. I'll do a bit of trolling as well.
But that, I mean, you're incredibly brave. You don't hold back on that, do you? You really go for it.
What's the point?
Yeah, well, true.
No, because I really believe on Twitter as well. You should fire and forget. If you send out something, you should let it. It can go out to the ether.
Right.
And I know I make a fool of myself on there.
Right.
But fine, I know I'm a fool. It's not really. If that's the thing that's worrying you most in life, maybe I make a fool of myself. And especially if you're a comic and you got problems, because there's a weird thing around comedy that comedians are meant to be cool, but if you're going to be prepared to make a fool of yourself, that on one level means you've got to be prepared to be massively uncool.
Yeah, but also comedians. Seinfeld described it as the ability to withstand pain.
Yeah,
because we go through a fucking hell of a lot of pain.
Yeah,
in terms of
hardest job in the world,
especially when it is a hardest job in the world. Especially when you're putting a tour together, like when you start, because you tour every 2 years. So?
It's every 2 years and we tour. There's kind of 18 months where I'm kind of out a lot.
Yeah. And
then there's the 6 months before it where I put a show together.
Yeah, and you start from scratch each show.
Tear up the old show, throw it away, don't even look at it.
Yeah, so how does that process work then? Do you
with great difficulty.
Are you writing notes throughout that time off, or are you just do you sit down?
If I have an idea, it'll go in a file. And what I always do is I look at the last show when it was being written, because there's always the thing that's being written and there's the thing you end up with. And there's usually a massive difference between the two. So I'll comb through and see if there's anything that fell through the cracks I didn't use, or see if there's anything that came out arse about face, and if there's another way, if there's like an idea that didn't pay off, and maybe I've got a way of framing it now. And then I just go, right, what am I going to write about in general in this show? What's the general theme?
Yeah.
And then I start hanging stuff together.
Right.
And that takes about 3 months to put together a 2-hour show. If I'm really put my nose to the grindstone, and I do a thing in a place not like this in Chiswick. There's a place called the Tabard Theatre.
Yeah.
Little pub theatre, 60 seats, and we do a thing at 5 o'clock. So the people who are there, they want to be there, because you can't run up a new show in front of people. Go, don't know if you do it. There's got to be people who are basically sympathetic to what you're doing,
happening,
what you're up to, because otherwise you're fighting two battles. And so I'll do like a couple like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, Friday at 5 o'clock,
and then rewrite from that. And the first show will literally be a bit of A4 on a bar stool, a lot of improvising, looking at the notes, and then I do sort of that every week for like 6 weeks or something, or every other week. And by the end of it, there's kind of a show in place, and then I'll go to a comedy club to make sure it's club funny, because that's what you want to check, because that's different. But you can only really do that with a written show, with a show that's figured out. And then we'll go into small theatres, like there's a place in Andover that's like a 300-seater, but it's got a proscenium arch, and you put it into a theatre, and then you roll it out into the bigger theatre. Yeah. And that I can do that quickly if I have to, but I prefer to sort of meander up to the bit where I do the finished show, because when you've been doing an act a long time, a lot of it is really easy, reflexive, but finding the new subjects is really difficult, because I've talked about an awful lot of things, and I go through I've got a book called All Sets Ever, and it's this great big fat book of everything I've ever done, all laid out in its format, and its set piece format, and I go through that, and I think there's nothing left to talk about. Farming, oh yeah, I've done that. Right, literally, and so that's actually the bit where you're pushing the ball up the hill.
So let's say you're going to write a show for tomorrow, right? Yeah. So would the pub landlord start talking about Trump?
Well, yeah. I mean, Trump's easier to talk about now than he was a year ago, because a year ago it was all just a bit frightening, and you'd sort of do some Trump stuff, and people go, "Can we not talk about that?" You know. Whereas Brexit is like a classically British shit show, so you can talk about that, and also it's happening to us, and it's. What's interesting about Brexit is it's us doing it to ourselves, which is like possibly the most fantastic thing to play with. It's like your relative. It's like talking about your family on a fucking vast scale, you know. Like,
that was almost designed around 4 Al Murray.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, the year before last, the show I wrote while that was all happening, which was called "Let's Go Backwards Together," is the LGBT thing you alluded to. So the name for the show is "Let's Go Backwards Together," which was the name of the show. And then one of the guys in the office who was putting the artwork together went, "Look, abbreviated. It's LGBT." I'm like, "What? What the fuck?" And so it's a complete accident.
Oh, right. I think you don't know.
I'm not that smart. And I wear this belt buckle, and every year every tour the belt buckle changes, so it'll say something to do. So there's a show called The Only Way Is Epic, and the belt buckle said epic. And then there was a show one year called One Man, One Governor. We had a big belt buckle on the stage made out, there's a lighting effect that I'd walk out through that said Gov, and then the belt buckle that said Gov. So this year's belt buckle said LGBT. So part way through the show, I go, it's my new slogan. I was very pleased with it until I had the belt buckle made, and I realised what it spelled out. And the whole audience was saying, "Oh yeah, he's wearing a thing that says LGBT," and then just hadn't fucking seen it. But it was complete accident. And then there's a song at the end where we all sing that, and then it goes LGBT, LGBT, and we go, no, not that, because it was an accident, But that show, that was written in the wake of it all. Yeah. And the really, and then you had one review going, "Oh, he doesn't even talk about it," and I'm thinking, the whole show is about it. And very often when you do, if you want to call it satire with a small s, when you do satire, people expect that to be you going, "And Boris Johnson said this to Michael Gove," and it isn't. Satire can be about everything. So a big part of that show about Brexit was about technology and how people were frightened of technology because they're frightened of change, because they're frightened of machines replacing them. And that's all part of the cultural temperature that has fed into the Brexit phenomenon, right? So that's in the show, and people go, "No Brexit stuff," and you go, "No, there really is." And in fact, I'm going under the hood. I'm not just interested in Gove and Boris and what did Farage say, because they're the foam on top of the fucking wave, right. Those guys, and the wave's all the other stuff in it, and I'm more interested in that. And also, if you talk about Farage and Gove and Boris, it dates very like quickly, that. Yeah. You can't take that on an 18-month tour. You're wasting your time.
Did you go to university with Gove?
Gove was at uni when I was at uni.
Yeah. Oh, so you didn't know him?
I don't know him. I didn't know him, but
so you could have punched him then, couldn't you?
Well, maybe I should have. I know, because I went to Oxford, and I got into doing comedy at Oxford. So my first day when I went to university, I met Stuart Lee. Bumped, not when he was Stuart Lee, when he was
just some student, right, with pretentious floppy hair, and his mate Rich, you know, and
Rich and Herring.
Rich and Herring, and I met them in the music room at the college I was at, and I asked them what they were doing, why they were in the music room. I said, "Oh, we'll go through. I'll be doing a sketch show in Edinburgh because they're a year above me. We've done a sketch show in Edinburgh, and we're doing it next week in town in one of the student theatres." And I said, "All right, is there a comedy scene here?" And they're like, "Yeah, there is." And then I'm like, "Oh, brilliant! I'll go along. When is it?" "Oh, it's on Sundays." And there was a thing on Sundays in a thing called the Oxford Union. And the Oxford Union's famous as the great debating society where all those wankers like Rees Mogg came through, right? Boris and Gove was president, right? So we were in the cellar at that building.
Right.
And so you'd come in through their foyer, and in the foyer, every term they'd elect a new president. So every term, the president election process would be gearing itself up straight away. So start of every term, there'd be the people pitching themselves out of president. And I remember Gove being one of those names. I never knew him, never knew who he was, being one of those names that was sort of pitching out him being president. And the thing is the weird thing is a TV executive I used to work with, this guy called Duncan Gray, right? And he used to work with me at ITV. And he was union president either the term before or after Gove, right? So when I've worked with Gray, I've gone, you know, Duncan, I said, "What about you and Michael Gove?" And he's going, "Oh yeah." And he I think he'd lived with Gove at one point after union or sort of thing. Right. And he'd sort of suck his teeth and go, "Yeah, sorry about that."
Anyway, he said teeth then.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the reason I've set that up is one time I met Boris, right?
Yeah.
Boris Johnson. Was at this event for veterans where there's this World War II thing where these cab drivers drive veterans to Arnhem and to Normandy. And it's a lovely event. They get all these old boys out of Chelsea Hospital and they drive them down there in the black cabs. And it's a really nice thing. And they meet at the Union Jack Club in Waterloo, and then they drive them down to Normandy or over to Holland. And it's a really sweet, lovely thing. And I'm at the launch of this thing with all these old Chelsea pensioners telling these amazing fucking stories about, "So I was behind German lines, right? And then I saw the fucking Germans coming at me and I rat-tat-tat and it'll fuck off." Right? And you're just like, come on, this is the juice, right? And Boris turned up, and what was brilliant is they actually managed to shut him up, right? Because they were more interesting than him, and you could see him think, "Better actually, people would rather hear them talk than me," which I think is probably one of the few occasions that's ever happened in his life, right? But he shuffles over to me after he goes, "You were at Oxford at the same time as me." I said, "No, I wasn't. No, definitely not. I'm much younger than you, and I wasn't. Right? But I was there when Gove was there and Duncan Gray." And he goes, "Ah, yes, Gove. I made that bugger." Yeah, that goes, and you think, "Oh, good, you've gone now." Well, I've got this great picture of me at home in one of the cabs, looking at him like, "You."
It seems to be. I mean, the word "cunt" was invented for him, really, wasn't it?
It's certainly worth getting out, dusting down, and firing at him.
Oh, as many times as possible.
Yeah.
Now, talking of cunts, Nigel Farage. That was an interesting time.
The cunt's cunt.
Yeah.
Yes, the running for Parliament. Yeah. Well, that was all because I'd written the show I was doing at the time was all about politics, right? Because I'd sort of got this. I'd really got a bee in my bonnet about comics being political all the time. I'd really kind of had enough of it, right? I was really bored of it, and that was because I did a satire, well, topical, whatever, like a show where we talk about the week's news on Radio 5 Live, called 7 Days Saturday or 7 Days Sunday. It would alternate because they buggered us about. Anyway, me and the producer on that, we got quite fixated on the idea that we just couldn't have another comic come through who would just go, "You're bloody Tories!" like that, right? Which is a completely valid point of view, right? But if everyone's saying it, the programme's not very interesting. There's only so much room for manoeuvre for being funny, and that was our brief: room for manoeuvre for being funny, not being a politically partisan show and all that sort of thing. And the Beeb was also under a lot of pressure about all the comics on the Beeb left wing, right? And the thing is the reason that bit of criticism bites is because it's partly true, right? Is there are a lot of left wing comics who find themselves on the BBC for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. And when you're producing a show, it's something you've got to face. And I was just basically full up with comics being experts on politics and having solutions to everything. So I thought, well, let's give that to the pub landlord because he thinks he's an expert on everything, right? So I was doing a show called One Man, One Governor, and I would literally do a question time thing in the second half. Any questions, and I'd solve all the problems imaginable, right, politically, and we do, well, what to do about the health service, Trident, the whole fucking thing, right? It was really good fun. And I'd done this show, and it was the run-up to, so that was in 2014, so that Christmas, I was in Cambridge to do the show, an old mate came to the show, and he said, well, you're going to run for Parliament next year, aren't you? And I'm like, what?
Just out of the blue.
What are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
He said, well, come on, you got to run Farage is running in Kent, isn't he? You got to run there, haven't you?
Great.
And immediately it's like, yes, of course, yes, this is, my brilliant idea.
Designed for it,
yeah, completely. And we came up with the party we called the Free United Kingdom Party. Fuck up. Straight away, it just all became obvious. Plonk, 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 plonk into place, right? And and so we formed a party, filled in the register, did it all properly because we thought if we're going to satirise this, we've got to wear its skin and we've got to take responsibility for it. And I mean, the thing I find most interesting is I've had people go, "You wanted to win that election,
right?"
And I didn't know. Why are you interfering in politics? I wasn't. I was taking the piss out of it. If that's interfering, whatever.
Yeah.
You're just doing this for publicity. What? No other politician isn't. Right. Also, accusing someone in show business of doing something for publicity retention isn't really a silver bullet.
Not really, no.
You're not going to slay that particular werewolf. Yeah, I'm showing off.
But you also, so you told me this, I don't know if you want me to tell other people,
Yeah,
you paid it all for yourself.
I paid it for all myself. Yeah, because one of the things that immediately happened, and I think this week's been very interesting on social media, with a lot of people going, it wasn't the Russians, it was probably Israel about the poisoning, right? And you're like, what? Or it's definitely the other people have done it to do this, the bent for conspiracism now is basically a reflex. It's automatic. 3 years ago when I ran for Parliament, it became pretty clear that there were a bunch of people who were already soaked in this and who were fans of Nigel. So very, very quickly it became clear that I'd been put up to by the BBC, by the EU, that the BBC were paying me via Dave to do it.
Just a local Dave. Oh, the Channel Dave.
Channel Dave.
David Master.
Where is he? Where's David? Cameron the Tory party was paying me to do it personally, right? Now, of course, and this conspiracy kind of view of it all was propelled by a couple of things. One of them was there's this genealogy website, right? And every 2 years or every other year they do like a publicity thing where they'll go, look, Obama's related to Kim Kardashian, and they do a bit of family tree, burrow down, a bit like Danny Dyer last year. I'm related to him in the fucking second. And the thing is, I hate to break it to him, we all are. Because there's a what they call like a genetic singularity point in this country, which is about 1050, where because your family tree goes out and upwards, and you have more people going out and upwards, so you got 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, but the population, when you go back in time, gets smaller. That means the fronds of your grandparents have to all overlap. So we are all related to each other. Everyone's a cousin. Everyone is related to Edward II, right? And they went back in my family tree because I've got this famous antecedent, William Thackeray, who was my great-great-great-grandfather on my mum's side. Whatever, doesn't mean a fucking thing, right? It just means I know who my great-great-great-grandfather is, that's all, right? And someone in his family apparently married someone in Cameron's family 200 years ago. You leave this to simmer on a message board, right? And it means we're first cousins. and he put me up to it.
Oh, God.
Now the thing is, I've got the first cousins I've got. I don't know their politics, right? And they certainly wouldn't be able to persuade me to do anything stupid like run for Parliament, right? So the idea that he'd have that You know,
that's
and basically, it's people who think in conspiracies. You know, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you probably think Jewish people run the world to some degree, and because they're all part of this tribe, this family, and it's basically that template slapped onto a newspaper article or a website article advertising genealogy services that explained why I did a comedy stunt. I mean, and the thing is, you'd push into that, and I'd engaged with it a lot on Twitter. It's fucking mental, right? There's one guy, my grandfather was a diplomat, right? And so there's a, you know, who died in 1982 or 1981, I can't remember. Right? He was an ambassador and all this sort of shit. And the guy goes, your career in comedy has only been a success because your grandfather, as part of the establishment, pulled the required strings, right? And I said, are you seriously telling me that before he died in 1981, when I was 13, my grandfather put in the necessary calls to insist there was a unit in place that would chase up my open spots
To the
10 years later?
the John Thoday Avalon.
Exactly right.
when he
Yeah,
was
well, yeah,
14.
whatever. Or get on the phone to Up the Creek and go, give him another chance. And I went, and he went, and he replied, yeah, that's how it works. And you think, this is, you know, and at the same time, I mean, what I love about all this is these same people go, they can't even take my bins out properly, right? They ascribe this extraordinary competence to government to be able to, like, pull these magical strings, but also go, they won't even clean up my fucking bins, right? Because they can't even manage that. And you think, well, what? Is it maybe they can't do the bins because they're too busy fixing my stand-up career? It's just sort of, and then you think, oh my God, this guy's got a vote. Ah! Or, you know, I mean, and it's all. So that is the sort of grind I dealt with once the election campaign was up and running. I mean, a simple, for instance, was the parachuting stunt where I was going to literally parachute into the constituency. Because that's political parlance. That was the joke. That's all there is to that joke. I was actually going to do it, right? Because I thought that'd be funny, right? That's all there is to it, right? And because I parachuted before, and I thought, well, I'll do it again. I did it before I was 40 before, so this time around I get a doctor's note and all sorts of permissions and all that sort of stuff. They take your blood pressure and make sure you haven't got like a lurking heart problem and all that. And I'm on the phone, and we had the whole thing set up, and we called a load of press over because it was the long election campaign, because it started in January to May, the long campaign before the short campaign, the 6 weeks running up to May 2nd. They were very kind of all the press were really bored. They're bored shitless. So you could say we're going to be doing a thing parachuting at Headcorn Airport in Kent, and they'd all turn up.
Right.
And we had like 80 fucking hacks there. People from. There was someone there from French Guyana, a reporter there from French Guyana, like, you know, these crazy Brits, right, or whatever, right, and Germans and Dutch people, the whole lot, right, and we get there, and the week before, just get on the scales, make sure you're not too heavy, right, so get the kids' scales out from under the loo, pink scales, my daughters are getting on it, yeah, I'm fine, I'm not heavier than 90 kilos, we're all right, right. So I get to the airfield and I do the whole safety briefing, and there's the press everywhere, the whole safety briefing. Right, and the whole lot, top to bottom, and she goes, one last thing before you pay for the jump with your credit card, get on the scales. Right? Get on the scales. Too heavy, right? Too fat bastard. Right? So it's off. We have to sack it off, and then we had to do what they do in politics, where something goes wrong, and you have to spin it. So we had to write a statement. And we had to lie to the journalists while we were figuring out what to do. The whole fucking 9 yards, and it was hilarious. And in fact, I thought the statement and the fact it didn't happen was a better stunt than do. It was a funnier outcome. It was like I can't even jump out of an aeroplane. and we wrote a whole thing about me being, you know, patient zero of the obesity epidemic, health and safety gone mad. In the old days, we used to fly over Europe and bomb it. Now we can't even jump out of a plane over our own country. All this sort of turgid shite that you know has gone on in the it's been the stuff of debate the last few years, right? So put that in, and it was much funnier. But I've got people going, that was a fix. You fucking said that was definitely a fix. You definitely said that. No, I was too fat. Yeah. Why would I bother lying about being a fat bastard?
Yeah.
Why, you know, so that was the thing that was really, I mean, doing this whole stuff was really interesting, was the suspicion that was thrown at what was obviously a joke. And the manifesto we had was 12 jokes. You read them, they're gags. You know, we'll put an extra 20p in the pound to make the pound worth £1.20. It's a joke. Anyone going to hospital, anyone going to A&E for no good reason will be sent to other departments to be practised on. These are fucking jokes, right? You'd have people going, you're interfering with the democratic process. You're undermining democracy. What, by taking part in it? No, fuck off.
Just doing some jokes.
Yeah, because the whole thing was a gag. And I think the thing is, you know, supposedly the British have the greatest sense of humour in the world. And you'll hear people say that. I'm sure we've all at some point said that. And the thing is, how do you test that? I don't know. I speak English and I speak a little bit of French. So I can't possibly be sure that that the British have the greatest sense of humour in the world. I don't know any other cultures well enough, right?
No.
And anyway, what do you even mean? But when people say that, they go, well, because we can laugh at ourselves. And then, of course, the moment you make a joke about them, they go, fuck off! There's nothing funny about that! Fuck you!
Sorry. Talking about joking and laughing at yourselves. You know, you mentioned Russian, the spy getting done, poisoned and killed. That happened just down the road here in New Malden.
What, the strangling?
The strangling. And it was just around the corner from my house in New Malden. Yeah. And what really pissed off everyone in New Malden is that the press were reporting it as Kingston and not New Malden.
Not, oh no, foreign attack on this British soil.
We want our fucking 5 minutes of fame, mate! This New Malden council tax is expensive here! Alright, we'll finish off with some questions that I'm going to ask everyone. So these are going to be the same questions. So you can keep your answers quite brief if you want to. What's the most interesting thing you've seen? Could be anything.
I got the most interesting thing I've seen. God, that's a good question. Well, this will maybe sound weird. I got a behind-the-scenes tour at the Tank Museum the year before last. I got the key out, and I was able to get in I got in the World War I tank. They got there, which was amazing.
Incredible. Good. What's your favourite place in the world?
Home.
Oh, great answer. Well done.
Yeah.
If you won a trolley dash in Lidl's, would you bother taking it?
Well, yeah, but there's a long, boring story about why I would.
Go for it.
Well, no, quite recently my partner insisted we go there.
Right.
Like, because I'd never been.
It's fucking wonderful.
Some sort of anthropological thing I think she had in mind. Which sounds terrible. And I nearly got in a fight in the car park, so... So yeah, I would take the trolley.
It's worth going. If you could shag one of ABBA, would it be the blonde one or the dark-haired one?
They're both nice guys.
That's the trouble with domestic comedians. They can see the fucking punchline, can't they? Because my one would have said Bjorn or Benny, but fuck off. Favourite kids show?
I used to love not the double deckers. What was it called? The banana splits.
Oh yeah. Cracking.
But I don't remember anything about it. I just remember liking it.
Yeah. No, they were good though. They were in the 70s.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. What would your specialist subject be on Mastermind?
The Battle of Arnhem.
Have you done it?
No, I haven't.
Have they asked you?
My partner keeps saying I should do it, but I haven't. I think they've asked me. My worry would be making a fool of myself on that.
Was it you wouldn't be
So I'd fuck it up. I'd screw it up.
Because
when you go, because I did Millionaire ages ago. Me and Harry did Millionaire ages ago, and then I did The Chase quite recently. And the pressure is something else. The pressured situation they create in those TV studios really is something else. And I'm totally relaxed about being on stage and being that's a situation some people regard as high pressure. But that is something else when you got Bradley or whoever needling you. It's horrible. So I think that's the problem with the idea of doing Celebrity Mastermind, because I do really know about it. I'm trying to write a book about it.
Yeah.
But which is why it'd be even worse to go on there and just go, I don't know, to something really obvious.
Right. Okay. So the panic, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you fancy come to Jane McDonald's house after this?
Yeah.
She hasn't invited me. I'm just going to egg her house. Have you ever done Loose Women? Have you been on Loose Women?
I've been on Loose Women. Yes, I've been on Loose Women.
What's that experience?
It's their title, that's their joke. Well, it can be good fun. It varies wildly depending on who you've got.
Yeah.
And also kind of, because I think they shoot a couple back to back, so if you get them when they're fresh.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. I used to do the warm-up.
Oh yeah, you used to do the warm-up.
I got sacked, yeah.
Did you? Oh shit.
I did a cracking joke about it earlier, which I can't do now. I'll do it and I'll just fucking edit in the last.
Yeah, go on then.
I got sacked from the warm-up because I called to her face, I called Janet Street Porter a cunt. And when I did that, she said to me, I beg your pardon, which I thought was really sweet about her. Let me call it again, please. Second time that joke worked.
Doing Loose Women is fun enough, yeah.
It's odd though, isn't it? Because they don't have to talk to comedians. They always ask you the exact same questions. Where'd you get your material from?
Oh, yeah.
Is it scary?
Yeah.
Lee Hurst went on it once and they said to him, where'd you get your material from? And he went, well, it's a little shop in the Old Kent Road. And they were all going, yeah, go on. She went, I'm joking, I wrote it.
God almighty.
You don't have to answer this, don't answer you. What's the most expensive thing you've bought, not including a house or a car?
A drum company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't bought it, I've set it up. So I have this drum company called the British Drum Company. We're based in Stockport. We handmade drum kits in Stockport and marching drums as well, pipe drums. And we've been going 2.5 years now, and we're rolling out. We've rolled out in Europe and we've rolled out in the States, or we're just about to, really recently because of the North American Music Messer. And it's me and a bloke who's basically a wood whisperer. He'd look at that table and know exactly how he could make it sound great. A design engineer, the drummer in Kasabian, a guy called Ian Matthews, is, and a marching guy called Stu Warmington, who's from the Royal Marines Corps of Drums, who's designed our pipe drums, marching drums, and that company, that's my money. That's what I didn't buy a flat, didn't buy another house, put the money into this company. And we had 3 people on the factory floor 2.5 years ago, and we've got 15 now. And it's incredibly exciting. And at some point, I may get that money back, but a bit of me just doesn't care, because we've got this incredible thing going. We've got apprentices coming in, we're shipping worldwide, we're building skills, it's an absolutely brilliant thing.
Excellent work, cracking answer, mate. Congratulations, good luck.
Cheers. BritishDrumCompany.com.
Do you think Danny Glover is getting too old for this shit?
I think he already was.
Excellent. Last one. What is your favourite word?
Pod.
Pod?
Yeah, because if you flip it around, it's like it's a physical anagram. If you turn it over,
see. Yeah.
Turn it over, it says pod again.
I expected someone from Oxford University to come up with a better word.
I was there a very long time ago. I made those buggers.
I went to the 3rd best university in the country because it goes Oxford, Cambridge, Liverpool, John Moores.
It does.
And that's how it works.
Fuck off. It
used
to be a difficult gig there,
yes. All gigs in Liverpool are tough, don't they?
Yeah.
Or Hot Water Comedy, you get the chance to go do that, it's incredible.
I've not played there.
No, it's new. Sorry, this isn't really part, this is just me and you having a chat about comedy, isn't it? Anyway, that's it. Do you want to ask me anything?
What's your favourite word?
Blancmange.
French word!
That joke still makes me laugh every time I see it. When you, I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah.
When you know, do you know when you? Oh, sorry, I get so excited about it. I can't fucking say. Do you know the bit I mean?
The bagatelle. Trifle.
No. If we didn't have too many rules.
Oh, if we did, yeah. If we had no rules, where would we be? France. If we had too many rules, where would we be? Germany. and then the third one. which used to be, and if we could shoot our girlfriend and not get sent down for murder. South Africa. And then, but I did panto really recently, and they obviously wanted me to do that. So I was playing Barman Al, who is Jack's brother in Jack and the Beanstalk. I don't know if you... I don't want to dish any spoilers on you, right? I run the Squishy Cowpat in Mootown, and they wanted me to do that, but I had to. So it's always got to have the third one, and I'm thinking, what can I do? Because it's normally the one that's used to be the absolute standby, and of course get to refresh every few months, which or where children have to take firearms into school, America, right? You know, right? So I was thinking, and the one I was allowed to do was, if we didn't have rules, if we did rules Germany, and if we had rules insisting we ride around on a bicycle whilst off our nut, Holland. Because the children in the audience,
Yeah,
right?
no,
And you'd see all the dads go,
That's an interesting experience, I did.
I love
Is that
doing
the first time you've done it?
I've not done it before. I will do it again, but I wouldn't do it every year because it basically, not because it's hard work, because a lot of people say it's such hard work. You find it so exhausting now. You find it so exhausting. 64 shows. It was 64 shows in 5.5 weeks. But I wasn't on stage, it wasn't like doing one of my gigs where I'm on stage for 2 hours, crapping on, right? I was in and out a bit, did a song and a dance, popped up, would comment on the script, goof around and get off, right? It was really, for me, a light load, and it was only in Wimbledon, it wasn't in Stockport or Newcastle or whatever. So I had an absolute ball doing it. It was a dream job, but it destroys Christmas because you're there from. We started on the 9th and we finished on the 14th of January.
Right.
So you get Mondays off because Christmas Day was Mondays. So it completely overwhelms your life, and you can't have a normal Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't do it every year. But the money's great, so you get
That thing of right for tax bill as well, isn't it? So it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Get paid at the end of January, pay the tax bill off.
Yeah,
Lovely.
exactly. All the musicians, this is my tax bill.
Yeah, well, it will be, won't it?
Yeah.
Al, thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure,
I
Maff.
hope you enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was good to see you as well. Hang out.
Likewise. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a massive thank you. A round of applause for Al Murray! Thanks very much for coming. It's really enjoyable, and it's first of many, I hope. Bob Mortimer said he'll do it. So yeah, John Richardson said he'll do it.
Brilliant.
And yeah, we're going to keep going with the comics because that's who I know. I know a few loose women, but they can fuck off. But anyway, thanks very much for coming. Sorry?
What's the name? Cruise Girl's house.
Jane McDonald. Yeah, we're going now, to Egger House. Yeah. Fun. I'd love to get Janet Street Porter on it, that'd be fucking
She'd be brilliant. Janet's great.
She's not great, she's a cunt.
That's sort of why she's great, because she's managed to carve out a career.
I'm amazed how
Despite that.
people haven't gone, oh, well, I'm not working with you. But everyone works with her. Anyway, we're just having a chat now. But anyway, thanks for coming. We are here every Monday as a comedy club, and we'd like to say we've got Sean Walsh here tomorrow night, and keep an eye out for more of these. But thank you very much. Another round of applause for Al Murray.
Good fun. Really good fun, wasn't it? Do you know who he is?
So I don't have an iPhone and I